Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Vamos a hacer un pequeño ensayo. We make one little essay for a lecture in English, specific talking about one, deterministic factor that is accepted in the scholar community or academia. This topic is about the historicity of Lord Sri Krishna. First, namaste for all Hindus, friends of that here in this lecture. Let me introduce myself. I am Professor Horacio Francisco Arganis. I am, I finished my academic professional studies in, humanities and history, philosophy of history. Had bachelor. I get my bachelor and in the Autonomous University of Coahuila, UIDC. Um, and also, I received the condecoration of the medal to the merit university merits for the more high, the more the top students, in this in the faculty or college of sciences, humanities, and education. In linguistic and Spanish literature. Also, I had my PhD from International University, Latin American International University. This was a consortium of many universities from Spain, Europe, Belgium, and also Latin America, many. And there I got my PhD, and with the PhD thesis called One Historical Revision of the Ancient Culture and Religion of India. Specifically, study study of the different historical model that coming from the conservative Indology and show the more one review and out there of the last findings, historical and archaeological findings that show the real time of Lord Krishna age, Mahabharata age, and the whole history of very culture, very religion, very literature too. So today I try to, I want to, limit it, my lecture, specific my discussion for one very interesting topic. First, it's very important to know that in this society, not like the skeptic community, otherwise we try to be, the more objective, the more attached to the truth, to the, to the truth, to the, to be more objective, more neutral, and more. We try to be the more, attached to the truth, and also the goal of scientific scientific investigation is for the welfare of the humanity, not for create harms, harms to the humanity, try to destroy the humanity and the people. No, this is anti-bioethical, anti-bioethic. Therefore, there is one discipline called bioethic. Bioethics is very important in the science, in in the science is very important, the bioethic. So therefore, I try to clear an interesting point that is more a sociological and epistemological factor that is I hear that influence specific that appeared in India, the Hindu in Indian people. So the Indian society, more from India. You know, this is the problem with some few, no, some other few so-called sometimes scholars, even with PhD or scholars with professional education, who they are partidaries, they are no objective, they also don't be they have no they don't not try to find the truth, only try to confuse to the people, innocent people. The point here is about told about Krishna, Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna, Vasudev, the Yadava prince hero in the ancient India, and Sri Ram, also the ancient big hero for this Ramayana saga. This saga, this epic, that give the very very important identity, national and ancestral and cultural identity of India for many many years, thousands of years. So therefore, first of all, I try to explain. So specific now, Lord Krishna. Let me. I wrote a book called Krishna and Ontological Studies, that epistemological review. In this book, I show different papers that I present in different academical space, like like symposiums and conferences, international congress. When I presented in many universities, I presented many fonts that I had, and other scholars, from America and India also, about the more exactly dates and the reality, historical reality that about the Mahabharata times and Ramayana times. For Mahabharata, more specific Krishna, the real antiquity of Srimad Bhagavatam, and this paper was right in journal specific, specialist journals, and also in different, social science, humanities, I also in internet and academia edu, this website, academical website, and also in ResearchGate, that I received many appreciations for scholars, for researchers, professional researchers from India and other part of the world, scholars, and also other comparative, religion specific, from Shaktiism, this branch of the Indian religion, the Vedic religion or Hindu religion, Shaktiism, in cooperation with the Mariolatry, on the Marian's apparitions, also other is Christ and Krishna, one study of the two theophanies in the history. I also comparative religion. I received many appreciation from Christians, scholars, and people. They say it's very interesting. They say Christians are from many different branches of Christianity or sects of Christianity, like Catholic, Roman Catholics, and also Protestants, evangelists, scholars, and students of Christianity or practicators, they practice Christianity, traditional followers of Christ. They say me, it's interesting. I was impressed. They like so much. So now in this book of Krishna intellectual student, I had a paper called Lord Krishna recognized by scholars long time ago. It's very important. It's that topic very important. I read only one part for your information, and I hope that this can help you for understand, this situation. The keywords are Indology, Vedic history, and Sanskrit literature, Mahabharata war, borrowing theory, astronomy, and planetarium computer software. Like epigraph, a summary of all this paper, I put a quote from Dr. Benjamin Preciado Solis. Dr. Benjamin Preciado, in Spanish Benjamin is English, is a professor and researcher of the Colmex, Mexican Colegio de Mexico. It's Mexican college. It's one university, very, very prestigious university in Mexico, like in the United States is, Yale or, Harvard or Berkeley. It's like that, like Harvard, Yale, all these universities, This is Colmex, is one very prestigious university. I have Department of Studies of Asia, studies. So he's the author of one book about Krishna. He said that Krishna was a technical wrestler. He always led the way as a professional. Krishna explicitly stated his desire to always follow the rules of the wrestling. In addition, he knew very well the trick of the gladiators. Krishna gave the greatest importance to five virtues of fighters. The remote time when Krishna was supposed to achieve his feat as a fighter, all these rules of the wrestling show that this sport was very popular in India in the times of Krishna. Krishna lived in a time when festivals were organized by apparently religious purpose. The central episode in the life of Krishna is as a wrestler. The day that he killed the tyrannus Kansa. This is Dr. Benjamin Preciado, professor and researcher of the Colmex, talking about Krishna, the god of Indian mythology. The word is free wrestling, lucha libre, chapter 6, 1994, 7, page 7. Here is very important point, because I will read more and explain a point. Introduction. From time to time we see attempts to find historical evidence for the spiritual traditions, eager to remove or those we are sometimes contributing with new things. It is, however, necessary to keep in mind to avoid offensive, unethical, or anti-ethical behavior in the name of to be known as so-called rationalistic or scientistics, as well as apply hypercritical language to Lord Krishna and the Vedic history. For example, very common in Indology books, even from Hindu authors, the word like mythology. It is derived from the Greek roots, mythos, discourse. This is the meaning. Discourse, the means. And now in the collective imaginary lexical, like untrue. Seen also in the Spanish word mentira, falsity, and ultimately called coming from the Sanskrit mithya, false. Another example of misunderstanding is when some Hindu scholars say, in this word, I will be proving that Lord Krishna was historical personality, etc. Why time ago, Krishna has long been recognized by scholars as historical personality. See examples table 1. Table 1. Let me read these directly quotes from scholars. Horace H. Wilson in 1870. Ram and Krishna, who appear to be originally real and historical characters, they can become converted in godheads. You know, Wilson, this is from Wilson, 1870, page 2, Introduction to the Vishnu Purana, translation in English. W.G. Wilkins, quoting to Theodore Gostucker state, Krishna is the most interesting incarnation of Vishnu, but on the account to the opportunity which it is for to trace in Indo-antiquity the gradual transformation of mortal hero in representative of a god. You know, they say Krishna was a mortal hero. You know, they believe like in this historical and naturalistic way. Dr. H. Horace Jacobi, in the classic Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics, state, in the early days, Vasudeva, who was considered incarnation of God, was a different of Krishna, a Rajaput chief. And later they become identified in the traditional belief. Jacobi, 1809, page 27. Rudolf Otto is very important. Dr. Horace Jacobi was a more respected, recognized, objective scientific scholar. You know, he was you know, very scientific, and also W. Wilkins was Christian Indologist, or H. Wilson was the hereditor. You know, he received the heritage of the Sanskrit chairman of the Sanskrit the Sanskrit chairman in Oxford. And Horace Jacobi was a very, very famous scholar, Indologist. And he said that, Rudolf Otto, he was the father of one social scientific discipline called phenomenology of religion. He was great authority. He was from German and very objective for studying, the Indian religion and ancient culture. He said this, Rudolf Otto, he's the father of phenomenology of religion. He said in 1933 that Krishna himself was historical figure is indeed quite undebatable. There is not any doubt. He said in 1939, page 5 is his introduction of Bhagavad Gita. Also, Dr. R.C. Majumdar in 1915. There is now amongst specialists a general consensus of opinion in favor of historicity of Krishna. Many also hold the view that Vasudeva and the Yadava hero, the co-world Krishna and Gokula, were one and the same person. Majumdar, R.C. in 1958. This is book called The Early History of Ancient History of Hindu People. It's very famous encyclopedical historian, encyclopedia of historian of Indian people, the Dr. R.S. Majumdar. The New British Encyclopedia said, this is New Encyclopedia Britannica, British, Vol. 7, Micropedia in 1964, page 7, said, Vasudeva Krishna is a Brishni prince who was presumably also a religious leader, levitated to the Godhead in the 5th century BC. This is the, this is Britannic Encyclopedia. Dr. Bhima Bihari Majumdar in 1969 said, Western scholars first tried Krishna as a myth, but many of the Orientalists in the present century had arrived to the conclusion that Krishna was a Kshatriya warrior who fought in Kurukshetra. Majumdar B in 1955. It is a very famous and classical work about the study of Krishna uh, called Krishna and History and Legend. Dr. Thomas G. Hopkins in 1978 said, from a strictly scholarly historical standpoint, the Krishna who appeared in the Bhagavad Gita is the princely Krishna of the Mahabharata. Krishna, the historical prince and charioteer of Arjuna, Hawking in 1978. So it's interesting this topic because I will explain to you that all scholars in Western, I studied in university. My thesis had around 200 books. My doctoral thesis, and also one book with my first book called Vaishnavis Historical Historia Confrontatio, of the essential doctrine of Hinduism. I present around 200 reference from different, specialized journal and papers and books, specialized, that, I quote in these books around to 30, a list of 30 scholars, encyclopedias, encyclopedias, and also, papers, specialist papers, show how they recognize Lord Krishna was like a historical figure. There is a theory, one hypothesis that said there were two Krishna or three persons that become, the person become a syncretization in one Krishna. Historical figure, two historical figure, and one God is incarnation. They speculate like that. But historians, let me show you, I quote some more of the best famous scholars in this issue, this field of Krishna researcher story, like Dr. Let me see. Okay, let me show you Okay, let me show you this about this hypothesis. Okay. One moment, please. Okay, let me read this. Okay. Hindu nationalist scholars like Rachaduri, Pulsaker, Badal, etc. were programmed people by the English influence. Thomas Hopkins mentioned that the colonial British, with a systematic denigration, gave up an inferiority culture complex. Copies 1983, page 111. Therefore, they largely adopted the missionary Orientalist paradigm. Some of them, like Mr. SKD, they read their own culture, his own culture. But the majority cannot be so deviate, because even though they do not defend Krishna divinity, only historicity, from which the fallacy arose. Deified Krishna princess called Vasudeva, and a tribal hero Krishna, religious leader of the Yadavas, page 79. This is the paraphrase of Precious book. From this mental locution, other fancies as the many or alternative Krishnas as emerged today. But even the Indologist Albert B. K. He's a very, very famous very respectful ideologies that, very objective, and also he was not a believer in Krishna. He was, naturalistic and more scientific. He said, the separation of Vasudeva and Krishna as different entities is impossible to justify or demonstrate, justify. It's impossible to justify. There is no any evidence. Also, in fact, such a preconception has been confessed and admitted by several specialists that this is impossible to demonstrate, See, Heidelberg in 1992 and Rosanen in 1989, because it's purely speculative, groundless nature. By its purely speculative, groundless nature, there is any evidence of this. Another thing is the Dr. Heidelberg. Another thing that has become a standard comments in a discussion of the Mahabharata scholars is the notion that you have two Krishnas. There are arguments against that. Even though there's two parts of Krishna, carrier, like Chikower, and later heroic princess, and are detailed with the different in different tests. For the most part of this test, this test is very much aware of each another. The old story was always known. There is never been a purely pastoral tradition about Krishna or purely martial tradition. Krishna is Krishna. Yeah, this is only, one full speculative hypothesis. There is any evidence. And also, other topic, very important topic, is that there is any evidence that there were two Krishna. The base of this hypothesis, this locution, speculation, coming from Bardarkar, Professor Bardarkar, that he speculated, but he said there is no mention of the infantile, like cowboy life of Krishna in the Mahabharata. But he forget that Dr. Preciado showed that other scholars like Mayundar, also many other scholars show that in the Mahabharata, in the history of the liberation, moksha of Salva, when Salva was blaspheming Krishna in the Rajasuya Yagya performed by Yudhishthir Maharaj, in those times he blasphemed Krishna and Krishna killed him with his Sudarshan chakra. The Sudarshan chakra is used even now by the Punjabis, the 6 Punjabis warriors using Sudarshan chakras like for good. There is also one chakra, more small chakra, no big like Sudarshan chakra, more small, called Shuriken, that coming from China and passed to Japan. And one Shaolin monk, teach the art of ninjas. This was, elite special forces, like elite, like still now, special forces, the first elite, forces, specialized forces for attack, commanders, was the ninjas. It's still commanders, ninjas. And there is one like chakra myth called Shuriken. That these are I practice martial arts, kung fu, wushu. This is Chinese. This is all history, But I know I use shurikens are very, very sharp, very dangerous, But the Sudarshan chakra is more dangerous, it's more big, You fish. You shot your Sudarshan chakra is very, very dangerous. So Krishna used his Sudarshan chakra, cut the head to Shishupal. But there, Shishupal witnessed, declaring, Krishna is a coward. He was the kill a bull. Kill a bull. It's sinful because he killed a bull. Kill his uncle Kansa, the pies Kansa, and also kill, one, this called very big giant bird called in prehistory, how to say, hairy birds, There was carnivorous bird that attacked Krishna, like, appear like dog appear like, like crane. But it's not cranes, it's like, these birds, that horror birds, that is very famous, big giant big birds, that living in Asia, So, and also this, he said, Bakasura. He also killed a bull, killed a horse, he also, performed the governor Lila, stop Indra Yagya ceremony. He's a, heretical Krishna. He blaspheming Krishna. In this place, show clearly the, how was the early life of Krishna, like a coward in Vrindavan, like a Gopa. And also another part of Mahabharata, when Krishna was, in the hunting lila with Arjun, preparing him to be a warrior. They were hunting animals, and he was the chariot to Arjun for prepared to chat. This is practice for chat. It's very, it's very painful for people in general. For chatters, they need to practice the hunter for prepare for kill, for protect Dharma. So when we continue go to the Yamuna, and Kalindi approached to Krishna, the Princess Kalindi, Princess Kalindi, the Kalindi approached to Arjun, for approach to Krishna, through to by Arjun, for to be the wife of Krishna. So in such time, in this lila, Lord, when the Krishna was in Yamuna, the narrative of Mahabharata say he looked the jasmine flowers. He said, if you have to look Yamuna river, in such place. I remember Vrindavan times when he had his romantic affair with Radha and his power friends, immediately remember Radha, and Krishna become so, Mrs. Radha and all the covers of Vrindavan and gopis, and he remembered his planes, and also when Krishna departing, Mahabharata said, he said to Arjun, say, oh Arjun, he remember the time when I stay in Vrindavan, Krishna only stay 11 years in Vrindavan. So in synthesis, in conclusion, there is no evidence that Krishna is Krishna. So only speculative people that lie speculate. You can find, in the stories of the people, also the people like the Jains. Jains were atheistic people. They accept Krishna like historical person in his books. When explained there was, many Salaka Puruchas, great personalities, and one of them was Krishna and Balarang. He said a great personality, great arhats, worship people. He said Krishna Vasudeva was a great thinker, great philosopher. And other books of Jain explain to Krishna like Mahabharata Yana Purana, Mahabharata Harivansa Purana, Yana Harivansa Purana. They explain the story of Krishna like Harivansa, the story like a human man, they look like human defects to Krishna. And also they were atheists. And also, coming from time before the time of Krishna, also view this world like were antagonist to Vaishnavism. And also, Buddhists, also the Buddhist authors, they wrote in the biography of Buddha, Lalita Visara, Elgata Yataka, and others, very many Yatakas, some Yatakas. They refer to Lord Krishna, like historical person, like, and also like avatar of Vishnu, also referring to Arjun, Yudhishthir, Draupadi, the other person that live in the time of the Krishna. So, and you review also the atheist sources like Charvakas and Ajivakas, and also Sankhya, atheist Sankhya. One of the more recognized acharyas or professors gurus or scholars in the Sankhya philosophy was Iswara Krishna. He had this name. He coming from a family of Vaishnava. He called Iswara Krishna, but never denied Krishna. Horacio Krishna never. They normally Krishna like a god, but they never they need Krishna. And there is any one reference, any reference from the ancient times that they need Krishna. Only with invasion, some Christian missionaries, like Sir William Young, some very few of them. They, one of them, the Borrowinist also, they try to inviting the theory or hypothesis that borrowing. They say, the Vaishnavas, they borrow the from the Christianity, the concept of the Krishna name, the Krishna history, the Vaishnavism, Krishnaism, Bhagavataism. They say that for trying to convert the Hindus, in the early times of the early time of the colonial empire, British Empire. But this only them, because later this hypothesis was overpassed, become updated, because there was many historical and archaeological evidence that show how Lord Krishna was more ancient than the Christianity. Also, the Greeks, Heliodoro, the historian Heliodoro, coming to India, in the times of Chandragupta, the court, he was the court of Chandragupta Maurya, and he in this time he wrote a book in the 2nd century before Christ, and he explained about Lord Mathura, the place like Krishna was there, the Surasena, the Yadavas, also Krishna Pura, and also explain that Krishna living 133 generation before Alexander the Great. So that means even this also the Islamic historian scholars also, they say Lord Krishna, like Albert Rubin, they say Lord Krishna lived was born in Mathura, and he lived in this time. So it's interesting this for explain you how Lord Krishna, also the other people from foreign people like the Kuchans, there were very famous kings that coming from China. Kuchans coming from China, and they invading North India, and the Bactrian people, also Taxila was conquered for them, and they create one dynasty, and the Kuchans also become Vaishnavas when they come in India, and the one of his king, the second or third after invasion, in the early times of the in the Christian age, the Kushans, the coins of his kingdom, when appeared one of the kings of the Kushan said, "This is King Vasudev Kuchan," had the name of Krishna, Vasudev, and also they building very beautiful temple of Vishnu. They were become Vaishnavas in the North India, the Kuchans, the foreigners, and also the Heliodoro and the invader Heliodoro, they become one Vaishnava, and he erected one Garuda Stamba in Bhopal in the Madhya Pradesh, and he constructed one Garuda Stamba, and they say this Garuda Stamba was built by Heliodoro, one Bhagavata follower of Krishna, when he visited the court of Kashiputra Bhagavata, one very famous King Bhagavata also. He became devotee of Krishna, Heliodorus, and there is many witness, testimony from the 4 years. Also, the Islamics, they call Krishna historical person, and also in the Hadiths. This is books. The Hadiths are these Muhammad says and different says, and the many branch of some branch from Islamics, Islamics like Ahmadiyas, Baha'is, and others from North India. They accept Lord Krishna like one prophet of Allah, and they quote a very famous, hadith that said how to say that Muhammad said, because these are the traditional the says that were heard from the Muhammad disciples. They wrote many hadiths that they heard directly from the Prophet, and the Prophet the Prophet Muhammad said there are many thousand prophets in the Quran, said, on the word of messenger of God, Allah. And in India, the prophet was called Krishna, Kana. Krishna, one name of Krishna, Kana. He's Krishna. His skin was dark. He was the prophet in India. So they accept Krishna like that. So even the Muslims say historical Krishna was a divine person. Many. So there is, if you look the history, there are tons of books about Krishna from the Vaishnavas, and other people know Vaishnavas that speak about Krishna. Krishna is the soul of the Indian culture, and there is geographical evidence, archaeological evidence, archaeoastrological evidence. So academics, they are serious academia, the real scholars, the Academy of Sciences, historical science, they recognize Lord Krishna as historical person, but they don't believe the miracles deeds of Krishna. Like, for example, the Vaishnavas believe, the all miracles, supernatural, deeds that Krishna, performed in his life, miracles, But for example, all religions had miracles, performed of his, masters or the prophets or the, and some of God or the, for example, Moses opened, the Red Sea and only used cross the sea, open the sea. And also, they believe that Isaiah, one prophet, the one celestial chariot with fire, coming to Elias, and he fly into the sky with horse of fire, celestial horse, go to sky. So, also the Muslim believe in the mirage, when the Prophet Muhammad, one horse coming, with wings like Pegasus, and in this celestial horse coming and fly to the 11 or 9 heaven of Allah, to the 7, celestial locusts in India cosmogony. So I say that I don't speak in Islam, sorry, please. Also my language, my mother language is Spanish. I am not so expert, speak very bad English, sorry, please. I am therefore practice now. So, but you can see, you can see how in all religions, also Jesus Christ resurrection, he was for a virgin, he cured, many leprosy people, on revived dead people, working on the about the water. This is mystical powers, supernatural powers. The scholars and the science now, by the influence of positivist philosophy, they are agnostic. They don't know reject this, they cannot, they need this, but they also don't believe in this. This is only for fight. We say that this is honestic or objective neutral science. Say these things like supernatural are only matters of faith. You understand? This is we cannot reject this, we cannot deny this, we cannot accept this because there is no empirical evidence for this. They say like that. This is the position of the scholars. But the historical denialism is no ontological serious position or epistemological serious, scientist position. This is only the delirious situation, This is a delirant situation because it's only one disassociation of historical reality. Sometimes, there is the fashion for some people. They like to kill great people in the history. For example, I become so surprised when, people that was heroes in Mexican history, that some people they need them, like people that, for example, one young, worker in the mines, and he used a big one, one rock, one table rock, in his back, and like blindage, blindage, against to the for stop the chop or the the from the the rifles, and from the Spanish in the Alondiga or Granaditas Alondiga in in what is it, in Dolores, something like that. Yeah, in Dolores maybe, in Dolores, in Guanajuato, Mexico. It was very heroical. There is his family, there is his house when he was there. There is the about this, act, papers that, that testimony his life. There is, recognize. There is his descendants. No, some one because one person that was the son of the, the from the, general in care of this fortress was that was, destroyed by the door, was destroyed by Pipila with explosives, and used, brea, and put fire in the door, and the door you explode, and that way all the insurgents they can take, the fortress Alondiga de Granaditas. So only because the son of this general lost all his richness, was very, his father was, overpassed, was uh, lost the battle, and he become angry with the insurgent and become historian, and he said, no, people is not true, and also he don't receive the official position, of historian in the government. Therefore, he become resent and told, no, it's not possible, people are reject people. This is crazy, and all some persons, for example, some persons that now so-called historians now, they believe that it's very nice, very excitation. They feel very excited, great excitation. It takes shelter emotionally. Takes shelter in the historical denialism of the great historical figures. This is crazy, This is no. They are no. They are disassociated from reality. They had, a problem called, yeah, cognitive alienation from the history. Alienation. They become alien, full alien, alienate by ideas, product for hate, from, I don't know, where it is from. Specific the Marxist historians, atheist historians are like that. They are lost the sense of reality by his hate about specific religious figures, religious personalities like Krishna, Ram, Jesus, Lord Buddha. They had so much hate that they close his mind in one hate, only based in the hate, in hate discourse, poison discourse, Jacobins, Jacobins in the horror government in the French Revolution, the French government of Jacobins, these atheists, very bigoted atheists, anti-religion people, and some Jacobins scholars that are very good rhetoricals, very good rhetoricals, very good at speaking, but they are no objective, they are no scientific, they reject all the history, the confirmation, with archaeological proof, historical proof. There is a big for. I might be, the first historical work researched in empirical and positivist methodology about one personality was Krishna by scholar Banki Machandra Chaturji. He was in the 18th, in the half of the 18th, he wrote a book called Krishna Charita in Bengali, and this is the first positivist and scientific naturalist investigation, historical investigation, very rigorous, rigorously investigation, scientific investigation of Krishna. 100 years before to the first historical investigation of Jesus Christ by doctor, by the scholar Nobel winner, very famous Albert Schweitzer. He was the first that performed one historical work in scientific basis of Jesus Christ. This was in India about Krishna. Maybe there is no other person that had many researches, many investigation, and many evidence about him that Lord Krishna, see Krishna. So even that the scholars don't believe miracles. They don't need this is a fight for the religion. They respect the fight of people. They not try to create confusion to the people. This is ethical. This is scientific. People that are Jacobins, atheists, haters of the religion, they speak many nonsense, many speculations, but this is not scientific. This is not the real veredict of the academy. So I try to express this. I hope that you understand me, the Hindus, friend, and the speaker, English speaker, and thank you very much for this small. This is one says more likely I show you slides of PowerPoint for show all the information. Thank you very much. We stop here. And when you had some question, you can write in the comments of this, when appear this, and in YouTube, and and also in Facebook. Thank you very much. Good night. I hope that you this year will be very happy to you and to be protected. Take care for the problem of the pandemic or COVID. It's dangerous. Please take all the precautions. Take care. Okay. Thank you very much. Goodbye.